Revolution Radio Canada. My name is Craig G. This is a program called Canadian as Fuck. Dimetre Alexiou alongside me as always, my running mate. He's just a lovely fella, teleprompter operator, musician, music historian, wonderful all-around fella. Underneath him, he's back.
Yes.
Derek Lewis is back. Yay! Oh, why didn't I get that applause on my phone?
No, don't.
Hang on a sec. Keep talking.
Don't
okay. Shit. No. All right. Damn it. Yay!
For he's a
Derek
jolly
Lewis.
Good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow. For he's a jolly good fellow, which nobody can.
Drinking a jar of urine.
Right. Hey, listen. Whatever floats your boat, my friend. Derek Lewis, it's great to have you back again, buddy. Honestly, we've missed you a lot, so we love you, and it's great to have you back.
And love the brick working behind you.
Honestly, that is
real.
Fantastic. Like
it's real.
You and Rich, our guests tonight, have a proper fucking backdrop, right? I'm looking at fucking like every time I move, my hands disappear. I'm like Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future. I start like fucking like melting away, you know.
That's why I turned mine off, because I was like, it was all weird. And I was like,
right? Oh, it's fine. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, what I need to do is invest in a green screen, and they cost money, which I don't have. And then of course,
no, you're not. Sorry, you're not. Sorry. We'll get to you, Rich. Hold on.
Right. This happens sometimes, my friend.
We're not getting green screens. I'm getting flags. I'm getting flags with the new logo and the new information, and then just hang them up behind you, and then
nice.
And
like
it
a
folds
shower
up
curtain.
Nice and small, like a shower curtain.
Like a Canadian as fuck shower curtain.
Exactly that.
Right? Awesome.
We should make those,
guys. We do have a guest tonight. Just so everybody knows.
I'm just going to go wait over here.
I'll be over here if you need me, guys.
Just so you know, our green room sucks.
It's right.
There are no stacks.
No, exactly. Yeah, unfortunately. Award-winning producer, engineer, musician, singer, songwriter, all-around freaking wicked cat. Our dear friend Brian Hogue introduced us to Richard Chycki is our guest tonight, and man, this is going to be some freaking fun. So anyway,
Andy
let's
has an awesome soul patch.
He does.
Yes.
Derek, do you mind if we get the show going?
I do.
Dimetre,
it's been
take
a
it
while.
away.
Canadian as Fuck would like to begin by acknowledging the indigenous peoples of all the lands that we're on today. While we meet tonight on a virtual platform, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands we call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitments and responsibility in improving relationships between nations, to improving our own understanding of local indigenous peoples and cultures, and to try to move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration.
Thank you, Dimetre. I'm literally texting our dear friend Brian Hogue right now as we speak. Brian Hogue from Little
Conduit
Sweet Industrial Band out of Burlington, Ontario, C0NDU1T. He is putting the finishing touches on their brand new record, which we are so fucking excited for.
Yeah, why isn't he on?
I am because he's working right now. So yeah, exactly. He said, please send Rich my love, and you guys are going to have fun. He's a blast, which I actually spoke to Rich last week, and he and I talked for 45 minutes, just basically for me to ask him and say, hey, would you come on the program? And he's like, yeah. So anyway.
So we pre-interviewed.
Kinda, yeah. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to start with this incredible artist. I want to start at a place where we were talking recently with our dear new friend, of course, Derry Grahan from Honeymoon Suite, and their latest record was worked on by a fellow that Rich Chycki actually knows very well, but apparently has never met. Richard, do you want to tell the story?
I know him, yet I don't know him. Well,
this is incredible.
I've met him in passing a few times. So a lot of people ask, I'll get to him in a second. A lot of people ask me, how do you get started in the industry? Like what was the break, right? Mm-hmm. And when I tell people about what to do to get started, I said, well, the one thing you don't do is never call in sick. right? So I was working. I was getting into the recording vibe more and more, because what the era I'm from was a lot more. There was no internet really. It was just starting up, and everything was very grassroots, and it was word of mouth. So that was really an important aspect of getting contacts and getting work in the industry, right? Recording. So I ended up networking with working with a lot of Toronto local bands, and one of these. There was a guitar player who plays with Tom Cochrane all the time. He's a great guy, great player. His name's Bill Bell. And Bill calls me and he says, "Hey, I'm working with this new artist named Amanda Marshall, and we're cutting some demos. And I want to cut some guitars today, and the engineer can't make it. He's sick. Do you want to do it?" The engineer was this guy, Mike Krompus, who I think produced the new Honeymoon Suite record. And funny thing is Mike also did some great guitar work. I just mixed a song for this young country guy named Carson Janik, right? And he's great. Anyway, so Mike and I keep going like this all the time, right? Anyways, so yeah. Mike was the house engineer at the studio that Bill wanted to record at. And so I went in and I recorded a bunch of tracks, and I left a cassette. That shows you how old this story is. Left a cassette on the console, and I left. And the managers of Amanda Marshall happened to be in the Jeff Healey Band, and the studio was the Jeff Healey Band studio. So I got I left the tape there, and I got a call the next day saying, "Hey, want to come down for a meeting? We'd like to talk to you." Sure. I went down, and they said, "Listen, we're starting a new record, and do you want to work with us on it?" So it really was all a result of Mike Krompus calling in sick, completely changed the path of what I was doing. So never call him sick.
That's a great story.
Isn't that awesome?
That's how life is, though. It's just like you never know where your opening is going to come.
100%. Yeah. And it really is. It depends on the Healey guys. The thing that was great about them is they loved working with marquee. They were connected business-wise. Everybody was top end booking agents. They worked with this producer, Tom Panunzi, who had done like the Who, Black Sabbath, and all sorts of. He's the guy that produced the Patrick Swayze, the Roadhouse soundtrack.
Oh, okay.
Right. So he's heavy duty, and they worked with this guy. They found this young kick-ass songwriter. His name was Marty Fredrickson, and they went, "Oh, we got to work with Marty because he's up and coming, and he was, he'd done all this great work." And then, so I had this exposure to all these people, and that's what it takes. Is Marty was he was also a great guy to say, "Hey man, we're gonna work together one day, man. I love your drums, man." And you hear that stuff, right? When everything, you just go, "Hey, that's awesome. Call me sometime. Be happy to work with you." And didn't hear from him for 6, 7, 8 months. You kind of forget, and then you just get that call, and he's like, "Hey man, I work with a band. I want you to come do drums." And it was in Boston. I went, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." Right. I wanted to get out of the whole Canadian scene and look for, greener pastures. And I took the gig right away. So, by the way, who's the artist? He goes, "Oh, it's Aerosmith, man." It was, so.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So that ended up being, that was supposed to be a 5-day gig. So I tracked a bunch of drums, and at the end of the gig, Steven and Joe and Marty and the other guy producing, Mark Hudson, they called me into Joe's office, and I'm thinking, I guess I'm done. They said, "Hey, we like the way you work. We want you to be the lead and work with us on the record." So I ended up 11 months. Record came out, sold, I don't know, 2 million records, something like that. So
wow,
unbelievable.
It just went from being just explosive out of nowhere,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Like, yeah, just, I mean, your career has spanned, a good number of decades now, but it's just
it's getting up there.
I just always love to hear those beginning stories. Now, there is one story that I'd really like to start with.
Sure.
Unfortunately, it looks like we lost our man.
We lost him.
He did not he didn't like that story at all.
No. He's got a thing against Aerosmith.
That's what it is.
Right, Dimetre, can you hear us? You're all good.
So apparently, I missed something about Aerosmith.
We'll just get Richard to just back it up.
It's okay. So I
on Facebook, you can back it up.
Okay.
That's right.
So there's a band from was it 19? Oh goodness gracious, 1980s. Bit of maybe a bit of a glam sort of thing that featured one of my dear friends on drums, a fellow by the name of Randy Cook, one of my all-time favorite drummers, a fellow by the name of Rich Chycki playing guitar and bass, and a lead singer whose name might be James Labrie, who just currently happens to be the lead singer of Dream Theater.
Yes. My name for James Labrie is Afcac. And you say, what's Afcac?
What's Afcac?
Artist formerly known as Kevin.
Oh, I love it.
Come on.
Fantastic.
Make it stick.
Nice. Yeah, exactly. Afcac.
Artist formerly known as, he was Kevin Labrie, right?
Kevin James Labrie. That's right.
Right.
Born in Penetanguishene, Ontario.
That's right, and he changed it to James Kevin Labrie for Dream Theater because I think there was 2 Kevins in the band, or 3, more Kevins by volume than other brands of progressive rock bands, and he just flip-flopped his names to sort of avoid confusion.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from me, I'm always confused about him. But
yeah,
right. Just like sometimes I'm confused about my friend Derek.
See,
could you talk about that band a little bit? Like
which one, Dream Theater or Winter Rose?
Winter Rose. Yeah.
Okay, so Winter Rose.
How did you guys come together? Like, how did you meet Randy? By the way, but I'd love to know that.
That is a good question. How did I meet him? Let me think about that.
Because Randy, and for those of you that don't know, Randy Cook is one of Canada's all-time finest drummers, and he's now a session musician.
So he was a session drummer in Canada. So now I was thinking back, trying to remember how we met. I did some work a couple years before Winter Rose started. I was playing with different bands in town, and there was an artist. God, I can't remember. I just remember the singer's name was Ange, and I cannot remember the name of the band for the life of me. It's a long time ago, and we did a show together, and just had Randy's the kind of guy. He sight reads really well, and just writes down everything, plays everything right through, and you could tell him, I really love everything except bar 76 on the 3 and you hit tom 3. Could you hit tom 2? And you just. And it's like, do you just want to drop in for that? He goes, no, play from the top. And everything will be the same, except for he'll make that one change. He's like one of those
insane musician.
Wizardly, machiney, like so crazily accurate with great feel. So anyways, we had a great time working together on that. And the bass player was Rob Laidlaw, who would end up being in Winter Rose as well. So when I was songwriting, I had done some work years before with Sebastian Bach, and he had moved on to work with Madame X, and then he came back and ended up in Skid Row. And I was looking for a singer, and people were, hey, I know this guy, and you get a lot of those I know those guy, I know a guy kind of things, and Labrie was one of them, and. When I had a buddy of mine, he's like, really disconnected. He's like, hey, man, I need a TV. He was looking for a TV. I said, I'm getting rid of a TV. So he came by my place and picked up the TV I was selling. And he said, oh, yeah, you're looking for a singer. Here's a tape. Right? And so I listened to it going, well, he had this, this soaring vocal, right, that I was looking for. So, I just reached out to him. We got together, and that was it. I said, let's get together, write some songs, and that's really what started it. And called up Rob and Randy and started recording. I think it was in May of 1988, and started to send tapes out. Canadian labels weren't interested, but we had quite a bit of interest from like the whole Atlantic area of people. And, the whole grunge thing was just coming in, and, our timing was probably off by a year, I would say. But, I was making my living at that time recording bands already. So it was just one of those things that when Winter Rose started to slow down, Labrie was saying, hey, I've got this band that I want to audition for. So I put together all the demos and all the photos from the Winter Rose thing, and he sent that off to Dream Theater, and the rest of that, of course, is history. So, and my recording work just kept ramping up and up and up. So,
amazing.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
I just have to ask, because you were talking about Randy Wood and how professorial and mathematical and like amazing his mind was. In your experience, are there a lot of drummers that tend to be that have that role in the band, like Randy Woods, Neil Peart? I remember Phil Collins talking about like when Genesis was a 5-piece, and they were doing Apocalypse in 9/8, and like a lot of people didn't realize that. The rest of the band didn't realize that part of the song was in 9/8, and he was like, "No, this is." So like, yeah. So do you find that the drummer does tend to have that position in the band?
Yeah, I think that great drummers have that combination of being musically they're leaders, yet they're intuitive to what the people around them are doing, and they can adapt to, get an idea of going, oh, I see where they're going, and then lead in that direction. So I think there's a lot of intuition involved with it, that to be able to read people, read a performance, listening to, if listening to a bass player, go, oh, you know what, he likes to do that. He likes to do that 4-and thing and just pick it up fast, and then make it, seem like the first time it goes by, but then from then on it's picked up right away, and Randy was always that guy that he, if there was he could sense that, if the band, if he played tons of covers and stuff, and if a band wasn't sure, he had it written down. So he'd be just like, bah, bah, boo, bah, and he would just like drag the band along if the band needed to be dragged along. And if it was a bunch of players that really have a lot of interaction, he would adapt and be very interactive, right? So that takes a special player. And Neil was certainly a player that was
absolutely, yes.
He was really ultimate in that, where he would, it was incredible watching the band, the Rush, watching them jam. It was next level, where I forget my environment, and so like all of a sudden it's like, I'm working. I got to watch for, I got to watch meters and stuff. And meanwhile, I'm just, you just kind of mesmerized watching the interaction of the players, and it really is that thing of, hey, I think I'll fall backwards, and someone's going to catch you. There's, if metaphorically speaking, that's what they do musically,
Trust.
So that's, yes, an amazing amount of trust, and it's something that really they know how to translate it into a performance, and the fans can feel it. I really believe that that's a major part of their success and what set them apart from other bands.
I also
why they lasted so long too.
100%.
There's also like a visual acuity when playing with people that understand you. And like even if you play with people that don't understand you, at some point you begin to understand each other, and it's just you can take something as simple as just like from across a stage, or like turning around and looking at your drummer for like half a second, and he knows exactly where you're going to go.
Yep. The for Jeff Healey, Jeff would have
a little more complicated
sets. Yes, but he would have a set of cues that he would give to the band.
Yeah.
So the interaction there was really, that kind of interaction was very one way, because of course, he didn't have the senses intact to, I'm going to watch the drummer, but he would, he would always cue and do these motions and the head motions and turning, and the band would pick up on that stuff all the time, and they had that natural feel for for what they were doing. So yeah, I agree. Can't agree more.
Yeah, I saw Jeff play trumpet at the Orbit Room.
Oh, the Orbit Room
one night, and that was like, I was like, I hadn't even seen him play guitar yet, but I saw him.
Right.
I saw him walked on stage of the Orbit Room, and I was like, oh, that's that guy I want to see play guitar. Cool, this will be great. And he pulls out a horn, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
It's crazy.
One of the greatest trumpet players I've ever seen. That guy's killed it. It was a
great player, great guitar player. It was the first time I worked with the band. They were just throwing around ideas for the new record,
right?
And it was my first session, and they had all sorts of really different ideas, and one of them was this kind of jazz thing, because of course that was Jeff's baby, that was his style. And I was just watching him play. It was the first time. I mean, I saw him in a club. I saw him at a distance, but he was sitting right beside me, and I'm watching him play. And it was next level amazing. Just watching, the motions. Being a guitar player, I'm going, like I have to watch my hands for that level of movement, so that I know I'm going to land in the right spot on the neck. And it was incredible that he would just have this motion when he'd be playing, and he would hit it every single time. And if he ever missed, he would pull the string so hard that he would recover. I would watch, and the strings are bent from the center of the neck to the edge, and it's like unbelievable, the strength and the agility of his playing. So it's really easy to see why he was so successful.
Yeah. Was the album that you're talking about, was that Hell to Pay?
No, I got in with them. I did Feel This, and I did a cover record.
Cover to cover.
Thank you, Cover to Cover.
Feel This is amazing.
That was a fun record. I ended up working with a producer on that record named Joe Hardy, and Joe did all the ZZ Top stuff.
And it felt, and you could hear that feel, that ZZ Topness.
Yeah, and he was great, and he was for me, he was a huge mentor that we stayed in touch for a lot of years, and he was a guy that really helped me. He taught me kind of what the industry does at top level, and it's just like, Rich, the thing is, you have to understand, it's not if you're going to get fucked, it's when you're going to get fucked.
I love it.
Hey, he was just so calm about it, and it's just,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. He was a good guy, really talented too. So, what are you going to do? That's good.
One of the things I love doing is I've had so much fun going back through your discography on Discogs. Discogs is a wonderful program, by the way, folks. If you have not figured, if you've not found Discogs, Discogs, it's basically all major artists. It's essentially their back catalog of everything that they do. In 1987, you worked on a record that was released by RCA Victor, and you just happened to do this record with a dear friend of ours who did drum programming on this by the name of Sasha. And of course,
which record is this?
This is you played guitar on this record.
This is a quiz, by the way. If you failed, it's going to be awful. The
great Lou Pamonti was on keyboards and synthesizer on this. Rich Chycki was on guitar along with David Bendeth. It was 2.
Wow!
Do you remember the album that those twins? The twins?
The De Blotzy twins.
De Blotzy, that's right. The De Blotzy twins. Stay with me. You played on that fucking record, dude.
Yes. I had much more hair then. Much more.
Nice. So was that kind of around the time that you were doing? Were you mostly playing at that point in time? Were you more a studio cat or a live cat, or were you really starting to take off as far as your engineering went?
Well, no, my engineering started around 19. Well, you know what? I'll give you the exact engineering thing in a second. With two, I was working with Sasha was working with Platinum Blonde, and he was working with Platinum Blonde at the time, and I wanted to know more people and work at a higher level, and going to clubs and trying to find people was it's isn't the most efficient way to do it. So he calls me one day and he says, listen, I've done quite a bit of electronic work with guitar amps and stuff, modding guitar amps and stuff. Sash calls me and he says, hey, the guitar tech for Platinum Blonde just quit and they need this work done. It's nothing really difficult. It's like, old JCM 800 Marshalls and putting effects loops in them and stuff. So nothing really difficult. So I said, yeah, I can do that for you.
Derek's ears just perked up.
yeah. Take me out on the road with you. So
JCM 800s, drool. Yeah,
yes. Yeah, so I went, ended up going out on the road with the band, and you get exposed to management, and you end up doing sound checks, and managers are there, and all of a sudden, we're putting this new band together, and that guy that was guitar tech, we should use him, So I got the call for that, and it was one of those things of, started to work more in the studio. This is pre-Winter Rose, large studio exposure. I was still, at that time, it would have been at like 16-track studios, still songwriting, that kind of thing. And then, I ended up being exposed. We did the recording up at Phase One out in Scarborough.
Yes, of course,
right?
Yeah.
The old Phase One that was still up on Kennedy, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Kennedy Road. And, it's just more exposure. That's the first time I met, like, Randy Staub was engineering. Randy's the guy that went on to do, recorded and mixed Dr. Feelgood, did the Metallica Black record.
So it's just, he was thick with Fairbairn?
Not yet. He was still in Toronto. He was a staff guy at Phase One. And then he ended up, I can't remember the engineer. There's an engineer that was at Phase One that he took off, went to LA. And then Staub was calling him and said, dude, you got to get me out of here. And, and so he ended up going down to A&M, which is Henson now, down to A&M and hooked up with Bob Rock there. And off they went, right? Back out to Vancouver and boom, right?
Wow.
So engineering, how I got into engineering I was doing engineering for myself. And we went into a studio in Mississauga. It was a good-sized room, and the engineer there was great. But he had met this new girl, and he was very attentive toward her. And I wanted to do my songs, and I said, "Hey, man, do you mind if I just dick with the console while you're busy there?" And it's like, "Yeah, whatever, right, sure." So I started to do the stuff that I wanted to do, right? So I had all the tools in front of me to do that, and so I started to study SSL manuals, consoles, SSL, solid state logic consoles, and I phoned up the distributor in Canada, who's in Toronto, and he said, "Come on down, pick up some manuals." Sure, learn the console, and the console manual was this big, the computer manual was this big. I went to Kinko's, did a copyright infringement, so I was walking around with this one side, this thing like this, right? With the holes, and you have the thick metal that goes through, and I had this huge thing, and I was reading and visualizing, and I ended up insisting with any project I was working on that I had to engineer it at a larger studio, and it was a bitch to get people to cooperate. But Metalworks out in Mississauga was the first one to say, "Yeah, come on in." And so I ended up doing a ton of work. I brought a lot of business there, at the peak, it was like 2-3 records a month I was mixing there. So
what years are we talking about?
That started when I started to engineer would be when I started engineer, I should say engineer in large facilities would be 1989 and 1990-ish, right? 89 to 90 is really when I started to dig in and work in larger facilities. I was working in a 16-track place, and I was learning, and I was more songwriting. I wasn't. I started engineering because I thought that's what you did. You know, I didn't know it was a separate gig until I met other people, and they're like, "Yeah, no, it's two separate gigs." But I kind of put both together at the same time, and I was hearing stuff in my head, and when I would ask for it, people would say, "No, you don't want that." And that's, for people that know me, that's not really the right answer. Right? That's just not the right answer. So, you know, it's like, present me with a better option, or give me what I want. Right. So, you know, that's really what it was. And I started saying, yeah, you know, I want this. Or I would say, yeah, but work on this guitar. And I would play something where I'd recorded the guitar direct using a solid state amp and EQing it a weird way. And, you know, and I just said, well, I kind of want that sound where it's got that high end, but I want this extra body. And they're going, how'd you do that? And I went, oh, that's not the right answer. You shouldn't be asking me that, right? I should be asking it should be the other way. So
yeah.
You know, so it was a good time. It was a good time to learn. So I just stayed in front of consoles all the time.
Yeah. Going to talk about this fellow One-Eyed Lonnie here in just a second, but I do have to ask you, Rich, what is your favorite console that you've ever worked on, analog or digital?
SSL G Plus.
And where was
SSL G Plus?
And where was that?
Well, there's quite a few of them out there. The first one that I worked on was at Metalworks, and so that is the SSL with the flying faders, right? With the faders that move.
Yeah.
Right. So that was my personal favorite console. So it'd be a 40. What they have out there, 4072, a G Plus 4072. That would be my favorite console.
Nice. Awesome. Have you ever worked on a Neve before?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, Snakes and Arrows. I mixed Snakes and Arrows on a Neve 88R, and I'd never seen the console. And I was working. We were tracking in the Catskill Mountains at Alair Studios, and Nick Raskulinik said, "Hey man, how do you feel about mixing on a Neve?" And I said, "I'm an SSL guy, Nick." And he goes, "I want to mix this on a Neve 88R. That's out at Ocean Way in LA." I went, "Never worked on it before." And he just went, it gave me the manual for it. And this was just before Christmas. And he said, "See you at the top of January." That was it. Right.
Oh,
so it was like,
wow.
Having said that console was very satisfying to work on, and Ocean Way was a great room. So no problem. Got through it. It was a fun console to mix. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, again, if I have a choice, I would mix on an SSL as far as analog goes, but the Neve was no slouch. So, but I'm a typical track on an old 80 series Neve and mix on an SSL if I'm in analog mode.
Nice. Richard Chycki is our guest tonight, and an old dear friend wants to say hi to you. One-Eyed Lonnie. It says, best regards to my man Rich. And it says, ask about Rich designing and building a visual LED metronome for Glass Tiger. Rich is such a talented mofo.
So
That's Sasha.
Like one of the drag-on thing?
That's Sasha, by the way, guys.
Yeah.
So that's
Really?
Sasha. That's Sasha.
Wow.
Who
Hey,
right
buddy.
now, Sasha is, of course, Brian Hogue's drummer in
Yes.
Conduit. So
Yes.
that's Sasha. Yeah.
So hi Sash, how's it going, bud? So what ended up, when I was working with Glass Tiger, the drummer refused to use a click track. Okay, he didn't want to use. I don't want to use a click track, and everybody wanted him to use a click track. He just said, "I'm not wearing headphones." And, you can't really put a click track through monitors because, the whole place hears it. And, you can't have that pop, 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 right?
Stand
So
behind
I
it with
just-
a stick.
Yeah.
Was this the original drummer Sam Reed or
Not Sam's. Sam was a keyboard player.
Oh,
Mike,
okay.
Mike?
Okay.
Can't remember. Handsome. He was a handsome devil, though.
Yeah. I know it wasn't Troy Feener, because Troy has no problem playing with a click. So
no. Anyway, so this guy didn't want to play. It's not that he had trouble with the click. He didn't want to wear headphones. I guess it was the process of the click. So I designed this. It's a really simple switching system, but what it did is you would put MIDI notes. Oh, thank you, Mike Hansen. I love you.
Thank you, Sass.
You should have Sash on.
I know, really, right? Hey, Sash, where can you get a good boy go over here, huh?
Yeah, actually, would love to. Yeah, definitely, Sasha, anytime.
See? So I designed this box that was a strip of LEDs. There was 4 banks of 4 LEDs, and it would just go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it would light up with each MIDI note. Right?
How long did that take you?
God, I can't remember. That's a long time ago. It was just switching. It was really simple switching circuits, right? We just takes a MIDI note, it converts it to a voltage, and you light up LEDs with it, right? So, I built this box, and you put it, I guess, down on the kick drum, and it would just count through, right? And that thing ended up having legs for, I ended up using it for the Healey guys. Like years later, we ended up dropping it in and doing all sorts of crazy things. So yeah, that was.
In the middle of those lights, was there a middle finger like that? There should have been. Oh, that's awesome.
Well, I didn't say that. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah. No. I'm not saying anything bad at all.
You
about
did.
Mike
You
Hansen.
started it.
Not even a bit. There you are, Mike Hansen. You're a lovely fella. You're a handsome fella.
There you go.
No, I'm just talking about the click track.
So, Rich, you've worked with my buddy Dan Broadbeck.
Yes, yeah, I've known Dan for a long time. Dan and I ended up working together on some Delores O'Riordan stuff.
Yes,
and he was working on some. I was working on some different stuff, and then Delores says she wants to record more songs, and she wanted us both to do that. So, we ended up jumping back up to phase 1 again, still on Kennedy, and had a great time. I've known Dan for a long time. Awesome guy.
We interviewed him on
guitar
Canadian
player.
AF. Yeah, we interviewed him on Canadian AF. Yeah, he's a sweet guy. Yeah, Derek brought him on.
Dan produced an album for me a bunch of years ago. Yeah, no, and it's just a blast to hang out with that guy too. It's like so much knowledge coming out of that guy's head.
And he's teaching at Fanshawe. Right? He's still teaching at Fanshawe, right?
He still teaches at Fanshawe,
Yeah. I've been out. I haven't been in the last year or so, but I've done quite a few like master classes for surround music there. So teaching kids how to set up their rigs and concepts in mixing and surround. Last one was in immersive audio to include Atmos a bit, but yeah, they've been. It's a good school.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could actually talk about Dolby Atmos. So if you could essentially start, like, we won't obviously talk about like surround, but like if you could start like maybe at kind of 5.1 surround and then just kind of take us through sort of the timeline essentially of this whole incredible Dolby thing.
Okay. So 5.1 is one of the methods that Dolby used in theaters, of course, to create a more immersive theater experience, right? And music industry caught on with that. 5.1 sounds great. 5.1 also requires a really well-defined system in order to be satisfying to people, and that ends up being its Achilles heel, because if we listen to 5.1 in cars, or we listen to a Econo Best Buy rig versus a $10,000 rig, right? The results are quite often, you might not get something that's listenable, right? And if it's unsatisfying, that's not good for anybody, right? Because it hurts the format, hurts the artist, hurts the engineer, it hurts everybody, right? So Atmos, I think, came out in 2012, and it was a buddy of mine. I was a buddy of mine was telling me that people were starting to look at mixing music. He was a remixer in LA, and was saying that, you might want to look at this because it's turning into a thing, and people are experimenting with it for music. And to keep it really simple, it's a more robust listening environment. That's for theaters. It's up to 64 speakers in a hemisphere, right? In a hemisphere. And what ends up happening is the music is constantly reanalyzed by software and DSP. And so if you have a system that is, say, 714, which is 12 speakers, right? Or let's say 514. So you have 5.1 like 5.1, the old system, and then there's 4 speakers overhead, right? If you have a system like that, or you have one that's 916, which is 16 speakers, right? Where each of the elements are placed is adapted. In other words, it's a much more robust system as your listening environment changes, right? So I can send it, my mix that I've done, say, is 7.1.4, which is 12 speakers. I can send it to somebody who has 24 speakers, or a theater that has 64 speakers, and it'll adapt. The mix will adapt, so it won't collapse.
Really?
Or I should say, much more difficult to collapse. Yes. And that's really a lot of the success of it. And it's really a satisfying format to listen to, right? So it's 100% of the artists so far that I've presented their music for them just said, you know what, let me just do this, come and listen. That they're really blown away because because of the effect of immersive audio, right? It really it has a much stronger sensory effect than stereo does.
Fucking so cool.
My head
I gotta share this.
Sure.
This is. Hopefully you guys can see this. Don't need to worry about audio. Yay!
Hey! So look at those guys.
This is your website. Now,
yep.
Who's that guy? Who's that guy?
That's my Uncle Todd.
So
that's Ocean Way up at the top.
So okay, this is Ocean Way. Okay.
Ocean Way. That's the room where Al right there is sitting on that. Remember the Neve 88 I was talking about?
Right.
Al is leaning against that Neve 88. That's right in behind him and Ged.
My God.
Right.
Just the fact that you say Al and Ged, it's like you can say that because you know them. It's just too fucking cool. So then we have to go to this. So this to me looks absolutely insane. Speakers up here. Are these?
It looks like Doctor Who's inside the TARDIS.
So right, honestly, it's what is the name of that amazing speaker company? I was at
this PMC.
Those are PMCs? Okay, I wasn't sure if it was... is it Westlake? Is that the name of another...
That's another name of speaker and another name of studio, yes. These are PMC speakers. What you're looking at there, that is, of course, just the front of the room. And what you're looking at is up in the top, right where your mouse is. Those are the... Remember I was talking about the speakers in the upper... That's the upper canopy speakers, the front upper canopy speakers. So those are the ones that are overhead, right? If you looked across from left to right, the lower, that is a wide speaker. So that one there is the left. Keep going, left. That's left. Okay, and then that's a subwoofer. Keep going, subwoofer. Right in behind me is a center speaker, and then on my opposite shoulder is subwoofer. Keep going, subwoofer. Keep going, right speaker, and that's a right wide speaker. Right, so really, it looks like there's so many speakers there because the subwoofers, there's 4 subwoofers that are made from smaller speakers, right? Because you get a coupling effect, and it ends up being, get a larger push because you have so many smaller speakers all working together.
So is each one of these consoles, like, is this console for that speaker, this console for that speaker?
No, that's those are controllers. That's not a console. Those are controllers. And it's,
okay. I see.
Those are just controllers for Pro Tools.
Yeah, Craig. Jeez.
Sorry.
Yeah, Craig. Right?
How dare you?
Yeah.
No, this is just too fucking cool. Like, I mean, when I saw this, I was just like, I would love to be standing behind you in this fucking studio right here, because I'll bet it sounds like nothing else on earth.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. The great thing is that there's a lot of great rooms that are out there. A lot of Dolby certified rooms, and the companies like PMC and Genelec speakers, and a bunch of others are doing great work with with immersive audio and trying to simplify it, basically make it so it's more stable, it's more bulletproof, so you can set it up in a variety of listening environments, and you can have a great listening experience for both just consuming music or mixing or working.
Mm-hmm.
So you brought this Dolby Atmos process to Rush, right?
Yes. I was doing some work in Atmos, and Amazon had an initiative because they're perpetuating the format. They have a big initiative to perpetuate the format, as does Universal, and now the rest of the record labels. And I had they had requested, what was it that I did first? I think it was Tom Sawyer and Limelight, and that was it.
Just 2 songs.
Just 2 songs. This was at the very beginning, and
Of course, 2 of their biggest.
Yeah,
their biggest.
Yeah.
But Al Lifeson is typically the sign-off guy for mixes and for
Is
listening
he really?
to formats. He's
I did not know that.
He's great. Yeah. So he came up. I did the mixes because I had done them in 5.1 before. I mixed movie pictures in 5.1, and so they'd asked me to do this in Atmos, and it's like, hey man, just when you're ready, call me. I'll come up. So I did the mixes, and he listened to Tom Sawyer first. I just put him in the sweet spot, cleared out, and let him listen. And this is a testament to the format. Really, he listened, and the song ended, and he didn't move. Right, and I'm just thinking to myself, he doesn't like it.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so I'm going, he doesn't like it.
Yeah.
Right, and I proverbially am shitting myself. Right, and it kind of freaking out a bit. And he turns and hey, so what'd you think? And he's like, I've never heard music come out of speakers like I've been hearing it in my head for all these years.
Wow.
Right? And he was
wow. What a compliment.
He was really just like, I don't know if he was overwhelmed, but it was just like, it's such a I don't want to say it. I don't want to use bad. Like, it was an assault, right? It's so strong. It's such a strong effect, and he the band knows that song better than anybody.
Yeah,
He knows that better than anybody, and they've played it thousands of times. And
I was
for him to be satisfied and affected, that move that strongly was when I saw it, I went, this is just going to be so huge, because that happened over and over and over again with artists, right?
Wow.
That, even if, managers are going, I don't know, I don't get it. And then you end up playing for the band's going, whoa, no, we're doing this. And now the way it's gone so far that, if you're on an Apple playlist and, you're listening in Apple Spatial Audio, which is a Atmos derivative, right? If, it's really competitive out there. It's like, if you're on a playlist, I don't want to be in simple stereo following that guy that's got a really huge, awesome sounding Atmos mix. I don't want to be that guy. Right. And I think people are getting it, and record companies are committing. They're doing their whole catalog, some,
Well, how long?
Record companies have hundreds of thousands of songs, right?
How long did it take you to do that Atmos work on Tom Sawyer?
The setup is the longest time, right? So getting everything set relative to, I mean, there's commonality within a project that's recorded unless it's really recorded in bits. But, back in that time, bands went and recorded whole records. So the record is structured similarly as far as where the guitars are, the amount of guitars. It changes somewhat, but really it's, the Al has, 2 main guitars and then 2 that have a bit of a different flavor. So he has 4 that he usually works with on that record, And so that took some time. I think it was like 2 days to get everything set up and mixed for the first song. And then it gets, it's pretty fast after that. But it's just the setup that usually takes time, right? It's you don't want to do one song at a time and have a fresh setup every time. That's the kind of the slowest, most inefficient way to do it.
Right. Amazing. Sorry, Derek, I think we've been kind of like maybe trouncing over you, as we always do here on Canadian as Fuck on Revolution Radio. Right?
Or Derek.
Nothing's new. Hey, welcome back.
Made this fucking big deal at the top, and then I'll just fucking sit here in the corner all quiet. Shit.
That's right. No, I wanted to. I was going to ask Rich something, but I can certainly wait. So
I was going to ask Rich because, I don't mean to do this as we're playing and step on your toes, Craig, but we've been talking for a fucking hour.
Yeah. I wanted to ask Rich if he's still good. We can go through a couple more questions and then.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Okay.
Hit me up. Hit me up. I take Visa, MasterCard. Go ahead.
Done. Okay. So you talked at the top of it. We were talking about. Craig was like, get into gear, Derek. We got this guy. He's this is who he is, and he's like this giant gearhead. And I'm like, I just like listening to you talk about stuff. Your characters of other musicians and other producers and other engineers and stuff. I love you. I think you're great. You've produced the majority of albums that I kind of cut my teeth on as well.
Oh, that's crazy.
You've worked with like so many different people, and it's a really, really impressive legacy that you have.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. So we talked at the top. You were like, how do you get into this business? What do you do? And you're like, well, don't call in sick. So my question is, if there were 2 pieces of gear that somebody hello, that's my cat. He says hi. He likes you too. If there's 2 pieces of gear for somebody just kind of getting in and starting to work in this industry, what are those 2 pieces of gear that you're just like, absolutely, you do not fucking not use these?
Wow, good question.
Okay, give me a budget.
I'd say starting out wise, I'd say anywhere between 5 to 20K.
Okay. So I would say get a great set of speakers that because everything else is not relevant if you have no idea what you're listening to, right? If you don't know what you're listening to, you cannot build a house on a crooked foundation. Right. So finding those speakers, what I found is intensely difficult to do because there's so many different possibilities out there. So I think that's something that I have a set of KRK E8 and E8Ts from I got them when I was working with Aerosmith, and I still use them because I just know them so well.
Yeah.
But I use the Genelec 8351Bs, and those are great sounding speakers. And I think that you need those. And if you can't afford speakers, get the best possible headphones you can get. Odyssey makes a great set. Speakers, the 5s, headphones. I'm sorry, they make a great set. The 5s are awesome headphones, intensely accurate. If you say I'm not going to get speakers, or if you happen to be in I can only work in my bedroom, then use headphones. I've mixed records almost 100% on headphones.
Wow.
So it's possible to do. And then I just check my work on speakers, might make a little adjustment here or there. But, that's something. And, if there's only two pieces, dude, that's really hard. You need like either if you're going to be in computer, you need a great computer and great software. If we can just lump that together, again, whatever you're familiar with, because some people are Pro Tools people, some people are Logic people, whatever it is. Have to learn how to use it creatively. You have to be able to breathe creative life into something that's very technical. Right, it's really easy just to cut everything and say, everything's on the grid. And, you take these drummers that have this awesome feel. And then by the time you're done chopping and slicing and dicing and nailing them to this grid, it sounds like.
Yeah. It sounds Robotronic. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. So, you look, if you ever watch a guy like, I get stuff in with like Randy Cook playing and, I could see what he does. And you could see his tempo, slightly inch forward in the choruses and lay back coming out of the chorus. And but these are things, it's very visceral, right? We feel it. It's like you hit the chorus, go, oh yeah, the chorus is really exciting. Well, that's because he's driving the band and making the band push a little bit and then pulling him back. And right, that's all the stuff. But so, anyways, I'm drifting off the conversation. But I would just say a great computer and software, great headphones to listen to what you're doing. Those are two. There's tons more, but
there's two. I mean, you get all the
listening source,
all the gear, gear, and all the
tons of mics. I mean, we could talk. There's tons of mics and stuff, but really, if there's only two, you can make records these days with no mics. So,
Gorillaz did. What was it? The second album they did. It was all on iPad.
Yeah,
most of the instruments were on iPad as well.
Yeah, 100%. It's out there.
What I like about your story is how you fell into your current role very organically. You didn't. It's like you just started, like, you asked if you could muck around at the board. Somebody let you, and then that's when your life changed, and you never went back.
Yeah, I was working at recording. I already had enough knowledge of recording previously because I was working in smaller studios to, like I said, it was songwriting. A buddy of mine had a rental place for bands, rehearsal space. And he said, yeah, man, let people in, make sure nobody walks out with any gear. And there's a studio there if you want to use that. And I was like, well, I want to write some songs. So, some of the stuff didn't sound so good, but it got better, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so then you formed your own trail out of that, which I don't think you ever predicted like 30 years ago that this is where you would be.
No.
And that's how life is. It's like
not a flying hope. If you had told me, that I'd be mixing whoever, I thought I would, I was very stereotypical. I wanted to get a record deal. I wanted to tour the world and, end up with a small house in Malibu or something, go to the beach every day, Yeah. That's kind of where it was. And it's just like, now it's a lot different.
Yeah.
Well, listen, my friend, we really appreciate your time. Like this has been fucking awesome. Like, seriously, you are a proper dude. Seriously, my friend Brian was right. You are awesome. So I
appreciate you guys. Thank you.
I have one more question for you, and then we're going to let you go, and we're going to play something from that incredible record that from Rush, the Time Machine concert that you worked on with them live in Cleveland. I told Brian this story. This was back in 1994, I believe, and I was working at a place called Cosmo Music in Richmond Hill.
Yes, sure you probably have some of my money.
Yeah, right. I saw.
Give me back my money.
That's right, exactly right. I was actually on hand, and I told Brian this, and he's like, "You have to tell Rich this, and then ask him this question." So this is the very first time I saw an analog to digital converter, but do it actually in real time. So it was a Yamaha box. It was giant and it was black. It was about this big. like that, and it weighed about 85 pounds. But what it did was it essentially gave like the live kind of like wave file like on the actual screen as it was going along. So I think it was on like a 1995, 1996 Mac, like after Steve Jobs kind of thing, right? So I remember seeing this and just being like, wow, that's fucking incredible. And it's like, how much is it? And they're like $11,000, right? And I was like, oh my God. You know, now you can buy like a Behringer, you know, digital to analog converter for $35 on Amazon. But I'm wondering, could you tell us one or maybe even two pieces of gear that the first time you saw them just blew your mind?
Lexicon 480 reverb, digital reverb, the 480.
Okay,
that was the first high-end reverb that I used, and I just listened to it, and I can't remember, the first thing I heard was A plate, I think it was, and I just listened to it and went, that's the vocal sound I've heard so many times. I didn't know, right?
Right.
And you know, I put it. There's some presets in there, and they're on so many records. And when you hear them, you go, "Oh, that's what that is." Right.
Okay.
So I'll do three pieces of gear. So next one's going to be the SSL. SSL was just a console. There was the sound of rock.
Yeah.
Again, once I mixed through it, I'm going, "Oh, this is what this is," because you know you want to figure out, you know, what's somebody doing. What is that sound, right? And then the third would be old U47 or Elam 251, those two microphones. When I heard anything through that, I was like, yeah, you had to do next to nothing to it. It just sounded.
Is that the Telefunken? Telefunken
U47, yeah.
Right. That I think there was a classic story of Jim Morrison walking into a studio in California, and there was a U47 set up there, and he looked at his producer and he was like, "Oh my God, that's Frank Sinatra's mic." You know, like that's the mic that Frank Sinatra sang to, because he was a huge Sinatra fanatic, right?
Yeah, man.
So I just love that. That's awesome. Fuck, this has been amazing, man. You are fucking awesome, dude.
By the way,
this has been great.
Rich has changed my life because Rich used the word reverb as opposed to the
reverb,
the pedestrian reverb, and I'm never saying reverb again.
Okay, hang on a second.
Quick question. Ever again.
You just did.
Quick
Never
question
after
for
that time.
Right, quick question. Okay, so Rich, promise, last question. Reverb, right? Okay, so Reverb, how would you pronounce the club of the same name that's 2 doors away from the Horseshoe on Queen Street West? Would you say Reverb or Reverb?
Reverb.
There you go. I know it is Reverb too, right? I know it is Reverb.
I would call the club Reverb because it's not a 480, so
there might be one in there. You never know.
You never know.
That's right.
I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you.
Richard Chycki, dude, you are just freaking awesome. This has been an absolute blast, and honestly, we can't thank you enough.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it's been really great.
Appreciate you guys letting me on your show. Thank you.
It's great.
This has been a blast. Okay, so looking forward to all of the future projects. I'm not talking about anything. All I'm going to say is can't wait.
We know stuff.
Yeah,
that's right.
So what I want to do is just play that incredible record, which for me is just a fantastic sounding live record. Back in 2011, it's Rush, and it's my favorite song from this record. I know everything's on it: Limelight, La Villa Strangiato, Red Barchetta. Everything's on it. For me, I just feel this performance of this song is absolutely amazing, and just Neil's vocals on this. I'm a big Neil fan, and they actually hit me really deeply. So anyway, the song is called Time Stand Still. Rich Chycki, thank you so much, brother. We really appreciate you being here, man.
Cheers. Thank you.
Canadian as Fuck, episode 86 with our man Rich Chycki, right here on Revolution Radio Canada. Turn this one up. Thank you, brother. This was amazing.
Hey, man. Thank you.
Turn my back to the wind to catch my breath before I start off again. Driven on without a moment to spend, passing in with a drink and a friend. I let my skin get too thin. I like to pause no matter what I pretend. Like some pilgrim, loves to try and say to the sun. Close my eyes, let my defenses down. All those rooms that I can't get around. I let my past go too far. No time to pause. And rock is going on. Not so guilty, ship underground. I could wait until the time comes around. I'm not looking back when I wanna look around me now. See more of the people and the places that surround me now. Days is older, a little bit older. Making sensation a little bit stronger. Making temperature a little bit stronger. Freezing motion a little bit longer. Innocence slips away. Innocence slips away. Time stands still. Time stands still. I'm not looking back, but I wanna look around me now. See more of the people and the places that surround me now. Time stands still. Something's going on. Time's going older. Children growing up, old friends growing older. Days and motion a little bit longer. Making sensation a little bit stronger. Experience slips away. Experience slips away. The innocence slips away.
Thank you again, brother.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate your time.
Awesome.
Thanks, Rich. Take
Thanks
care.
so much, Rich. Have a great night.
Mr.
Cheers, you too.
Rackmount.
Mr. Rackmount.
Chai Rackmount to you.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Mr. SKB Rackmount. Okay.
All
Awesome.
right. See you guys.
Take
Take
care.
care. Thanks,
Cheers.
man.
Bye.